Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess not in high school, but that's a tough
Tough
thing
one.
to thread, right? When we're teaching abstinence only education, that you're also trying to teach people
No,
that they need to be
preparing
getting
them.
pregnant.
But they're preparing them for after they obviously get married and
Yes.
enter into a Christian covenant.
Yeah.
Where
I
they're
don't know. The whole reason that we do abstinence only is because the suggestion of sex is going to make people have sex. So
well, if you don't
they're
teach
going to
them
really
how babies get made,
Mhm.
then you can encourage them to have babies without teaching them about sex.
See. So then we're just really like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Back to, yeah. Like people have
storks.
no clue. Yeah.
Fucking
Like,
stork
no idea.
with
Yeah.
babies
Right.
wrapped
Yeah.
in.
Maybe how you do it is, put the stork food outside when you're ready to have a baby once you're married. You've learned how to make biscuits and boxers. Put the stork food outside and keep putting it out there. So a bunch of West Virginia babies for us.
You go to LSU's campus and you make a wish and rub the belly of Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. Welcome to Seriously, the podcast that dives into the baffling.
We can't send them to a prison where there's animals, where there's livestock.
The ridiculous.
Like omelets better than sex.
And downright unbelievable political climate in red states like Louisiana.
So we can't go there. There are no vegan jails.
Seriously.
Welcome to Seriously. We're your host. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Ellie.
And later in the show, we have a conversation with the deep canvassing organizer at AVOW in Texas, which is fantastic. But Ellie and I haven't been together in a couple of weeks, so we wanted to get together because there's a lot of seriously shit that's been happening.
Yes, as always.
That we need to talk about. Do you want to get us started?
Sure. You have a longer list than I do.
Yes.
But number one, which is of course like still happening now, is about, at least for me, is about the SNAP benefits and how the federal government is basically just like choosing not to pay them. There is a contingency fund with an enabling statute that says that the money is set aside for an emergency, such as a government shutdown, so that there won't be any gap in funding SNAP.
So SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is food stamps.
That's right.
This is money to food banks.
Yes,
food
that's
pantries.
Right. Yes, SNAP is like what used to be known as food stamps. Apparently, like 1 in 8 Americans like benefit from food stamp for SNAP for food stamps are enrolled in the program. It's like 40 plus million Americans, like half of which who are children,
Right.
like children, who, are eligible, qualified, and receive these benefits like on, basically a debit card, like every single month. So
it's how they buy groceries.
Yes, exactly. So the money that was like already allocated to the program has run out. So in order to like keep funding it, the government needs to come back into session and, do a new budget. However, not really, because like, again, there's an emergency fund for this. But the Trump administration, including Mike Johnson, have taken the position that like they just can't do it. They cannot do it because they can't use this money because no money has actually been allocated, which is 100% bullshit. Like they're doing that with all kinds of other stuff that they want to fund, like regardless. They're moving money around that was not specifically designated as emergency funding to do things like pay the troops. I have no problem with them paying the troops, but their statutory authority to do that is like at best questionable. With this, then it's what Congress set out. Mm-hmm. They've now taken the part off of the Department of Agriculture, who is the agency that administers and facilitates SNAP. They've taken like that off their website where it says that there is a contingency fund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And just, claim that they can't do it. Mike Johnson then, of course, said the quiet part out loud at a press conference, like on, I don't know, like Thursday or Friday, which was basically just that if they do this, it just like encourages Democrats to keep the shutdown going. And so
Well, that's
they're
the
not
whole
going to
point.
do it.
I mean, that's the whole
Yes.
point, is that they're
Yes.
trying to starve families and children in need in this country because that's their only leverage to try to strong arm the Democrats to coming back and reopening the government.
Yes, exactly. So like to them, it's worth it to put needy families in distress, and millions of single moms, let's be honest, that like then are going to be not feeding themselves so they can feed their kids for like
Right.
an indefinite period of time. But then several states sued over this. Two different federal courts have now said that, yeah, no, it turns out that like the money is there. The enabling statute does say that these benefits can and should be paid and that the government has to do it. They have to figure out how to do it. So TBD, we'll see what happens. The Trump administration did not immediately respond with being like, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. We were a little confused, but thank you for letting us know that we are legally allowed to do it. And in fact, we're under a court order to do it. I guess the way that the courts have set it up, it's basically like, come to us with your plan. Tell us how you're going to do it.
Mhm.
And so it looks like they're just going to kind of slow walk that. Trump posted some shit that was basically like, if it is true that we are able to, then it would be my honor. It would be my honor to pay these SNAP benefits. So I think on Monday, they're supposed to be in federal court to explain what the plan is. So I'm interested to see. This is not an uncommon thing that happens with the government and injunctions. I've seen this many, many times. Like they're under a clear court order to do something, but it's going to be there's how does it get done? What is the administrative path to doing it? The court doesn't really know. They're like, you guys figure it out, but let us know. And then the government just slow walks that and just kind of just doesn't really do it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the desire to hold children hostage with food seems kind of, reprehensible.
Yeah. It's not really pro-life.
No, it's not. Or pro-Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have called this podcast, This Is Not Pro-Life.
Yes, exactly. So,
well, in addition to Mike Johnson being totally on board with starving children, and like Louisiana is a poor state, so a lot of our citizens rely on SNAP benefits, like a lot of them. Even in Mike Johnson's district and also Louisiana Representative Clay Higgins' district.
And a lot of Trump voters, to be clear. There's been lots of talk recently, which, I mean, should be obvious, but there's an old narrative about who gets SNAP benefits that basically, it's like Black women in urban areas, the old like welfare queens, like, bullshit. Yeah. But the reality is that it's very, very many white people in rural areas in red parts of the country. Like equal, if not more, of the people who are getting SNAP benefits are those folks.
Which is
their own voters, in other words.
Right, exactly. A lot of the people that make up Representative Clay Higgins' district. So he tweets, there are 22 million American households receiving SNAP benefits for groceries at $4,200 per year on average. Try to get your head wrapped around how many pantries you can stock with $4,200 in properly shopped groceries. Any American who has been receiving $4,200, this is the third time he's stated that amount, per year of free groceries and does not have at least 1 month of groceries stocked should never again receive SNAP because, wow, stop smoking crack.
Oh my God. Also, does he understand or probably just doesn't care? These are paid to people on a monthly basis. So you get like, I think it's $239 a month.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That gets essentially, put onto a debit card. So how much of $239 per month are you going to be able to siphon off to be stockpiling groceries?
I mean, he thinks that everybody should have, a doomsday pantry.
But he's making it sound like also you get this paid out to you on an annual basis, which you do not.
Yeah.
Like maybe you could do that.
I think
if it was paid to you at the beginning of the year.
I think that somebody, not us, but somebody should put this any American who has been receiving $4,200 per year of free groceries and does not have at least 1 month of grocery stock should never again receive SNAP because wow, stop smoking crack. Like if that is not on a billboard in Clay Higgins's district, it is political malfeasance. These
A lot of fresh food too, presumably, even, like,
these fucking guys. So okay.
yes, what an asshole is correct.
Do you want to talk about Charlie Kirk? Okay. Governor Landry put a video. They actually put effort into this. This was not like he was being asked about it at a press conference and he said some stupid shit. Like he went and stood in front of the tiger statue on LSU's campus and put this video together that I'm going to have to.
Yeah, I have not seen this.
Okay.
I mean, I know where this is going, but I'd like to see this video. Okay.
Hey everyone, Governor Jeff Landry here tonight, wanting to thank the entire Turning Point family. Because tonight, unbelievable, over 1,500 people came to listen to Turning Point USA. Thank you, big shout out to LSU Turning Point. And so we're here on campus next to Mike the Tiger, and we're gonna put a challenge out to the LSU Board of Supervisors to find a place to put a statue of Charlie Kirk to defend the freedom of speech on college campuses. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's see if we can be the first campus to do it.
Okay.
I mean, what a fucking idiot.
As also many people have already pointed out, Charlie Kirk did not go to LSU. Charlie Kirk has zero connections to Louisiana, to LSU, to anything.
Yeah.
This is just Landry being like a huge suck up and just general piece of shit. I mean, like that this should be, not only would it be very divisive, but like, why would this be a priority? LSU has like no money for academics, like at all. Like, so they should be like, people should be raising money to put a statue of Charlie Kirk at LSU. Like, why? Why?
Maybe we should do a contest where people can send in their ideas of other statues.
Or what would be dumber? Like, can you even think of something that would be dumber? Like not better, like just dumber, because like it's pretty low down on the list.
My God.
It also is like he being Governor Landry right now is like
he's on
his
a
own
warpath
full
LSU.
Totalitarian warpath with LSU.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I mean, with the Board of Supervisors, he has now single-handedly fired the football coach, fired the athletic director, is like running the charge on who the new president should be.
Oh,
and
no.
he's going to pick the new football coach.
No, he doesn't want to pick the new football coach.
He wants the Board of Supervisors.
He wants President Trump to do it. That's what he said in a press conference.
Oh, well, that's even weirder.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck is that? What part that I heard before said the Board of Supervisors should do it, which also is dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very political body. It's a board. It's a board. Like the board of any organization is not supposed to be involved in the day-to-day hiring and firing and management. Mm-hmm. When that happens, then generally those decisions aren't that great.
Yeah. Because they don't really know.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Like they're supposed to be doing sort of broad oversight,
right.
Management, fiscal, broad oversight, like not day to day hiring and firing and prioritizing.
I know he's so pissed off about the football coach situation.
They lost. They're this,
because they're losing.
Yeah, but they're not even losing that bad. But yeah, they're, it's been a disappointing season. I understand being a Kentucky basketball fan. People get very upset when like we're not the best.
Yeah.
So, LSU expects to be the best at football, and it's been some up and downs with this coach. But whatever, like fired him in the middle of the season and then fired the athletic director, and yet now wants to be super involved in the hiring. The governor.
I can think of a lot of other ways that he could be spending his time that would be more productive.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like very Huey Long. Huey Long got so involved in LSU. He was basically running the joint.
I mean, he was running everything. Yeah.
Yes, but that's what Landry aspires to.
He fancies himself a mini in statue to Huey Long.
And as we've already talked about on this show, with less popular policies, though.
Yeah.
At least Huey Long had leftist populist policies. These are right-wing populist policies, which Governor Landry is going to try to fund SNAP, giving credit where credit is due, which would be more in the Huey Long category. But this is the same person who would not accept aid from the federal government just a couple summers ago that would have allowed for free school lunches basically to continue over the summer. So overall, he's not a big fan of kids getting fed.
Yeah.
Or priorities that help everyday Louisianans. But what he does need to be doing is, yes, advocating for statues of Charlie Kirk, for money to be spent on that, advocating, of course, for real tigers to be, living at LSU. Right. Interrogation of all sort of animal rights and just logic, And now, that he should be in charge of the football program, basically, which already sucks up all of the money that should be going to academics. So again, if the Board of Supervisors wants to focus on raising money, I would suggest that they raise money to then give to the library. Apparently the library is in shambles. Apparently there's tons of places at LSU. I'm talking about the flagship LSU where there's no air conditioning. The school could use some fucking funding. Yeah. And it's not for Charlie Kirk or for the governor to sit on the hiring committee. So yeah, that's a bunch of seriously.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jeff Landry, somebody should make a meme of him dressed up Siegfried and Roy style with the tigers. Right. I have another one, but do you want to do your other one before we do my other ones?
Yeah. So this is, my little bit of a rant that goes along with what some of the seriousness that y'all talked about last week about the East Wing of the White House. And now, of course, it's just been demolished now. The Trump administration just bulldozed it. Even though no one knows what they're going to build now.
The Death Star. They're going to build the Death Star.
Well, they have to
a ballroom.
They have to get, approval for what they're going to build. So, there's all sorts of rules about, this goes to my whole point. They're supposed to,
right? But
there's nothing that says, there's nothing in the law that says you have to get approval before you tear something down at the White House. There's apparently a bunch of stuff that says that you have to get approval before you build something. So of course they were like, let's just fucking bulldoze this shit.
Yeah.
Because if you just do it, it's a lot harder, right? Then you can't build that back up.
Yeah.
So this is just one of my general frustrations that Democrats need to be acting more like that. I think what they've done with the East Wing is horrible. They shouldn't have done that. But this is what Republicans do and Democrats do not. And it's very frustrating to me. As a lawyer, then there's sort of two different kinds of lawyers. There's either the lawyers who, you have a problem that you're approaching. So you look at the law and say, is there anything in the law that says we cannot do this? That we can't do X, Y, and Z? And if there's nothing in the law that says you can't do it, then you can do it. And then, or we should try it. And then there's the lawyers who look at the law and say, is there anything in the law that says we can do this? And if there's nothing that says we can do it, then, maybe we shouldn't. I am in the former category.
Yeah, ask for forgiveness, not permission.
That's right. And this doesn't come up in our work that much, but my personality, and I'm sure it probably does sometimes. But and I would never, ever advocate for doing anything that would trample on somebody's rights or is in disregard of the law. But we need to understand as lawyers and as politicians that the purpose of the law is prohibitory. It's telling society and people what you cannot do, right? Whether that's to somebody else's person or their property, the criminal law and the civil law, it's about, what goes too far in a contractual relationship, what's not considered okay to do with your business partners or competitors, with government, which they can't do to citizens and people in this country. That's the purpose of the law. What are the outer limits on what you can't do?
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a list of everything you can do.
Yeah.
So if nothing says you can't do it, you should try doing it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And then someone will stop you
Yeah.
if they think they've got a good argument that, no, really, you can't do this. We need to be acting like that more. start doing stuff, folks. Start doing it until you're told that you can't.
Yeah.
And stop looking in the law for like what allows you to do it. Look and see if you're not allowed to do it. So again, this is the perfect example. And this is also on the flip side why we need, in terms of the president, some more prohibitory laws.
Yes. Yeah, we
Which
cannot
we knew.
rely on norms and
That's right.
ethics anymore.
That's right. Which we knew and we still didn't do. But yes, that is my rant. I want Democrats to stop being so fucking cautious all the time. And when or if, God willing, we are in power again, to start doing some things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if that means tearing something down because, there's nothing in the law that says you can't do it, even if that means that you got to wait and get permission for what you can build up. And, it's the perfect example. It's like a literal example of let's do it. And then we'll figure out the next part later.
Yes. Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not if you don't need it. Not if yeah.
I like
Do it. Start doing stuff, people. Start doing it.
I like it.
That's how it ties back to the SNAP benefit bullshit, though,
Okay.
and how they could totally be doing it. They are doing it. They're doing this exact same thing with paying things they want to pay, right? Like paying the military, whatever. Like, they're not worried at all that there very well may be prohibitory laws that are saying that they can't move money like they're doing. But it's kind of wishy-washy. They're just doing that.
Yeah.
But with this, all of a sudden, it's like something they think that will give them political advantage. Then all of a sudden, these same people who run roughshod
They're so
over the
worried
law.
about what the
Yes.
Actually.
About well, we don't know if the wording of this specific statute allows us to do it. Like, go fuck yourself. If this were Merrick Garland or fucking President Biden, I would at least believe them that unfortunately they were going with this most conservative reading of the law and needing an engraved invitation to tell them they can take action. Because again, that's how Democrats act.
Yeah.
It's not how these people act. So go fuck yourself. There's no way that you care whether you think that there's an engraved invitation.
You would just do it.
Correct.
And figure out the law later.
And pretty much you can do that. Anyway. So that's the rant.
Okay. The Texas Attorney General has now sued Tylenol over the autism claims.
Okay.
Okay. So
What's
so he's suing. So Ken Paxton is suing Johnson & Johnson, and the complaint is accusing the pharmaceutical company of failing to warn consumers about the risk of taking Tylenol while pregnant.
Well, this will be Ken Paxton's known for his political stunts, so this will fall into that category.
Yeah.
So I guess Tylenol still hasn't sued all the government. I want them to still sue all the fucking government.
I don't think that this is the only lawsuit out there. I think other states have done this too.
Well, there are so on the flip side, then this was shortly after all of the insane press conference stuff. Then there are private suits that have been pending for a while against Tylenol that have not been going very well. That unsurprisingly, after all the press conferences, then there were motions in those cases to be able to admit all this new expert evidence, which is the same old expert evidence that has been excluded in federal court as unreliable. Just to put a finer point on our earlier bitching about how what these people, Trump and RFK are saying these press conferences, federal courts had already found it to be not sufficiently based in evidence, not well accepted enough at all in the scientific community to even be presented in those cases as evidence. So, I would also have tried to reopen that if I were those plaintiffs' lawyers.
Yeah.
Why would you not? You're no, the government says. But of course, that doesn't mean that the judges were and what? They're and nothing has changed, though, in terms of the science. This is the same shit that we have already found is too unreliable to be presented to a jury. So just because the government is now standing up and giving a weird press conference about it does not change that. Right? So this is, of course, Ken Paxton just nah, let's go. Let's go ahead.
Let's do it.
Failure to warn about, things that at least some federal judges have already found to be not credible enough to even be presented to a jury as evidence.
Unbelievable.
Ken Paxton, he's
out of control.
Well, because he has had huge corruption problems himself, huge sexual harassment problems, corruption problems, was under investigation by Texas's, their Department of Justice. Like the Republican House, the Republican legislature there, like almost removed him. His wife is a senator. She's now divorcing him. She didn't say why. And she's a crazy conservative who's extremely anti-abortion, but like she's out. Like Ken Paxton's got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of problems. He's like holding on to office like by a thread,
I'm
but he's
surprised
also
that he
running for
hasn't-
Senate.
Yeah. I mean,
He's for the US Senate.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is like I think just total page out of his typical book. Like just like file something that, sounds like what the people in the base want,
Mhm.
get some attention and distract from the fact that you have, not just like political problems, like personally.
It's funny
In
because
fact.
Louisiana and Texas are always sort of in this competition,
Yeah.
right, as neighbors over
Oh, yes.
kind of who
can
can
be
have
nuts.
the most outrageously
Mhm.
stupid and nefarious and fucking evil people running the state.
And particularly with the AG's offices who can take
Yes.
like the most sort of outrageous position to get attention.
I want to talk about this one. Okay. At a West Virginia school board meeting, state legislators were invited to, I guess, talk to the school board. And I don't exactly know the entire context of how this came up, but one of West Virginia's state legislators went down a line of questioning with the school board members, asking whether the schools are teaching girls home ec or otherwise encouraging them to have babies because he's concerned about the falling birth rate in West Virginia.
So this is a state legislator.
Mhm.
So when you were telling me about this a little bit earlier, I assumed it was just a random person.
No, this is a state legislator who's worried about the falling birth rate, which might have something to do with the toxic environment
Mhm.
because of coal mining, and that may also be contributing to people's either decisions not to bear children in the toxic environment that is West Virginia.
Mhm.
It may have to do with the
Lack of
economic security in a place like West
Mhm.
Virginia. But if we just made sure that the schools had home ec or some other kinds of courses that they could funnel girls into
Mhm.
that would indoctrinate them away from going to college and instead having babies,
That's gonna be
that would
great.
fix the
That's gonna be
problem.
great for West Virginia.
Yeah,
That's exactly what they need.
that would fix the problem.
It's exactly what poor states need
Mhm.
is like more women who don't have any economic possibilities. Yeah, so more children, less people who are trained and able to work, but still no more resources, just other than teaching you how to bake, I guess, like
Because
in
we're
like
up
middle school.
Yeah, because we're not gonna give them SNAP benefits.
Exactly.
And
Or like paid childcare.
yeah, how are they even gonna use
Family
their home
leave.
economics, skills that
True.
they've learned if they can't even go to the fucking
It's
grocery
true.
store?
I would also be interested to like a survey of kids. Like, is this something that kids want? There might be some kids. I
wanna
always,
know how
I like to cook. I mean, we did set, we would
I
do-
took a home ec class.
Did you really?
Because I grew up in Monroe.
Yes.
I grew up in Monroe, Louisiana.
Yes. So we did not have home ec where I went to school, but we would, like classes about like history classes in middle school. There would be like history and geography classes. You could pick a project. My good friend Marshall and I would always pick the one that was cooking. So we did like a whole Russian cuisine. We did the whole like Jamaican cuisine. Like when we were studying those countries,
Yeah.
kids might want that. I'm fine with that if kids would like this, but I bet it's not a ton of kids. And what else? What is home ec?
Well, I'll tell you what my home ec was.
Okay,
We
yeah.
did learn to do some cooking. So we learned how to make biscuits
Okay.
and gravy, which,
You probably did like
yeah, I was down for some biscuits and
that.
gravy. And I can't remember what other things we learned how to cook, but there was also a sewing component too.
Okay.
So we made a pair of boxer shorts,
That's hilarious.
and a pillowcase. We made pillowcases.
Oh my God, the boxer shorts are really funny.
Yeah.
You need to be darning your husband's boxer shorts.
Anyway, I mean, if they want to have like
Yeah.
an elective
Yeah.
that people can opt into, that's fine.
Yeah,
You know,
I
if
agree with
kids
that.
want to learn how to make boxer shorts or make biscuits and gravy, that sounds great. But like mandatory Tradwife classes,
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
think that's a no.
And again, also that like this is clearly a plan. Like the state legislators are just going to the school board meeting, and this is
Well, I don't
this
know
is their
exactly what the
big.
context was, but maybe there was like
Maybe.
they were there to talk
Maybe.
about other stuff, and this
Maybe.
legislator just decided to use his time
Maybe.
to push for Tradwife classes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like the part like, are they going to be encouraging high school kids to get pregnant? Like, is that where we're going? Is that where we're going?
No, that's 100%
I mean,
what it
obviously,
sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess not in high school, but that's a tough
Tough
thing
one.
to thread, right? When we're teaching abstinence only education, that you're also trying to teach people
No,
that they need to be
preparing
getting
them.
pregnant.
But they're preparing them for after they obviously get married and
Yes.
enter into a Christian covenant.
Yeah.
Where
I
they're
don't know. The whole reason that we do abstinence only is because the suggestion of sex is going to make people have sex. So
well, if you don't
they're
teach
going to
them
really.
how babies get made,
Mhm.
then you can encourage them to have babies without teaching them about sex.
See. So then we're just really like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Back to, yeah. Like people have
storks.
no clue. Yeah.
Fucking
Like,
stork
no idea.
with
Yeah.
babies
Right.
wrapped
Yeah.
in.
Maybe how you do it is, put the stork food outside when you're ready to have a baby once you're married. You've learned how to make biscuits and boxers. Put the stork food outside and keep putting it out there. So, yeah. Bunch of West Virginia babies for us.
You go to LSU's campus and you make a wish and rub
Yes,
the belly of Charlie
Kirk.
Kirk.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. Oh my God. Well, we will be right back with our conversation with Amy AVOW.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. Stay tuned, everybody.
I'm really excited today to have as our guest Amy Sustaita, who is the Relational Organizing Manager at AVOW in Texas. For folks who don't know, AVOW is on the front lines of the fight for abortion access, confronting systemic oppression and building pro-abortion agendas shaped by and for Texans. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to talk about abortion.
Yeah, that's right. You're with people who are not afraid to talk about abortions. You're in luck.
I love it.
And we love talking to people from Texas because it's like Louisiana's like big sister next door that's like always kind of like a little bit out in front doing shitty stuff. But, sometimes the little sister Louisiana gets to lead. In general, they're in like lockstep with like really bad ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you guys have Mardi Gras, though.
That's
Like,
true. That's true.
true.
Now,
Yeah.
there are some redeeming values to living here, mostly in New Orleans, but
Yeah. Amy, so before we jump in, I did want to note for our listeners that we're recording this on September 13th, but this episode actually isn't going to air until early November. But that being said, we love to ask our guests to get mired in the absurdity with us and let us know what has made you think seriously recently.
That's a good one. I was telling you guys earlier, I feel like I was like feeling a little over, just like there's a major thing that just happened this week, and I'm like, I don't know, like I'm trying to find through all this stuff, like what I could bring to the segment. And I stumbled across RFK Jr. and he name dropped Tylenol because he said that there is a linkage between autism and using like pregnant people using Tylenol during their pregnancy. And a lot of people were saying that he name dropped Tylenol because he couldn't pronounce acetaminophen. I was like, you know what? I believe that 100%. I don't know.
He doesn't even know that Tylenol is a brand name. I mean, I think that's also like a possibility.
That's the chemical name to RFK Jr. is Tylenol. And I just like, it's just so ridiculous. It just feels so like it's devastating that someone has this much power and is in, like just has a lot of power in our government and in public health, and this is like what they're talking, like this is literally what they are saying to the public. And I don't know, it's so ridiculous and absurd, but at the same time, I'm like, I know from what I'm seeing on TikTok, everyone's like, he's gonna get hit with like a giant lawsuit for name dropping Tylenol as like the link to autism. So I'm like,
as the relevant lawyer here, I was just thinking like, well, I mean, you're starting a fight with I don't know who Bayer, whoever produces Tylenol is or Johnson & John's. I don't know who it is, but yeah, you're making the mistake of picking a fight with a big company for kind of no reason. So I would love to see RFK get sued.
I'm like, please get on him. Like, please, like seriously get on him. And it makes me also think about just like how abortion is also a public health issue. And, this current administration does not see abortion as a right. So it just, to me, it's like all connecting. And there is a statistic that says that abortion is actually safer, or a self-managed abortion pills are safer to take than Tylenol.
Yes.
Like lower risk.
So that actually sort of was reminding me as you were talking that, one of the other dangerous things, of course, with RFK being in the position that he is, which hasn't like really come to fruition yet. And I mean, fingers crossed won't, but the right is, heavily pushing like bad science and like revisiting the entire narrative of whether mifepristone is safe and whether it should be, more regulated. And I was reading recently, like, I mean, it's all junk science, but like where they're claiming that the studies that have shown that mifepristone is safer than Tylenol, that's all junk science. So, we're again living in a space where like people don't agree on the facts, and that the people in government are, completely open to conspiracy theories and just totally bad science. So, so far then it seems like that the FDA, it's hard to tell if the Trump administration just hasn't gotten around yet to, changing the regulations, getting rid of telehealth, getting rid of like by mail access to mifepristone, or if they feel like it's a little bit of just like, let's not touch the stove on that. We'll see. But like to change the narrative and to like rewrite the science on this, there's a favorable audience, obviously, with Mr. Conspiracy Theory, Mr. Anti-Science, RFK Jr. So that's just like an ongoing series that I have in the back of my mind.
Same. Like, what is he gonna? Who is he gonna target this time? Yeah.
Oh my God. Ellie, what about you?
So many things, but I think briefly the stuff that I've been thinking about a lot that I know will still be timely when this airs is what is the international affairs space that's going on, both with Russia and with Netanyahu. Like that just this past week, then, the Russians flew armed drones into Polish airspace, into NATO airspace, which has never happened. I mean, that the Russians have like actually pushed into NATO airspace in this way. And then Netanyahu bombed Qatar. I mean, he bombed Hamas, but in Qatar, just like people, these folks who are allies like Netanyahu and are enemies like Putin, which like, I don't even know which is which anymore with Trump, but not only, of course, is Trump not ending either of those wars as he claimed he was going to do on day one, but also those leaders have now realized that not only do they not, which neither of them want to end those wars, to be clear, like Netanyahu wants the war to keep going, and so does Putin. And now they've also realized that like Trump's not going to do shit about shit. So instead they can start not just expanding what they're doing, but like really pushing the envelope into like, other like sovereign territory. So, that's just like, I'm like, are we really on the brink of, a full-blown war in the Middle East? Are we really on the brink of, armed conflict between NATO and Russia? Whether we're in it or not will be also seriously issue. So yeah, those are just some of the things that I've been thinking about this week that unfortunately, like I feel very confident, regardless of whether the facts are a little bit different by the time this episode airs, this ongoing bullshit will be seriously ongoing.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, mine is in the same theme of just gross incompetence and and negligence within the Trump administration.
I mean, that could be, we could talk about, I mean, there's
could be a whole-
endless, there's endless, literally endless things.
Not even at the end of the year. And we're
Right.
still like, this is not even year one. And we're already like,
I know. Like it is sort of, I mean, it feels, I mean, it's obviously like Trump 1 supercharged now with Trump 2, but it does feel the same with like that term where it was like, have we been doing this for my whole life or has it only been a few months? Because I can't really tell the difference anymore.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michelle. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So also this week, there was a lawsuit filed by 3 former FBI officials against Kash Patel, who is the director of the FBI.
Supposedly.
And the lawsuit is fascinating. I mean, it's like very, very, very detailed in their grievances, and the lawsuit is about them being dismissed, fired with like no cause and in violation of laws, yada yada yada. But I was reading it because I was just trying to look at something else in the news this week, and buried into the complaint that was filed is a story by this guy that was like one of the acting directors. I think I can't remember exactly which one of the FBI officials relays this story in the complaint, that Kash Patel was giving him this coin. So apparently in the government, like the boss will hand out these coins to their subordinates that are doing an exceptionally good job. There's like a name for it. I can't remember what it is. And so it's pretty common. They do this in the military. They do it in the Department of Justice. And, they're like silver dollar signed coins, and they have like the seal of whatever that agency is. Kash Patel redesigned his coin so that his coin is way bigger. It's like, twice the size of this. So we're going from like Mardi Gras doubloon to, like one of those like novelty coins or whatever that you buy on TV late at night. And his, the Department, of Justice or the Federal Bureau of Investigations director, and then has K A $H. I'm not even kidding. I tried to find a picture of it online. I could not, but like, I mean, this is in a sworn, statement in the complaint in this lawsuit. So I have no reason to believe that the FBI official who relayed this story in the context of this lawsuit is lying. I mean, that's insane.
Well, it also goes to one of my general complaints. It's a little bit more petty about this administration in general, which is that they are trashy. They're just trashy.
They are. They are. Yeah.
They just have like just no decorum at all. Like that is just like, that's just trashy.
Yeah.
Poor taste. Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't have it like mounted on, a chain, and
well, he's expecting
like
the recipient, I guess, will like hang it on their wall now, as opposed to like, like a private little award you got that you can carry with you or put in like a special place. But I'll think about this for a different episode, but I'm going to be thinking about what my coin would look like.
we should design coins. Yeah, for sure.
Was thinking, I was like, okay, is it crazy of me? I'd be like, I want to take a shot at designing my own coin. I'm like, why not? And just put dollar signs everywhere, swag. Like that would be cool.
Mine's gonna have an IUD.
Amy, you can then hand them out while canvassing. Like if people do a good job. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. Maybe it's a bad idea, but it doesn't sound like maybe you wouldn't say you did a good job, but like as a memento of our, meaningful conversation, please accept this not trashy coin.
That is actually a really good idea, y'all, because I'm always like, what? I feel like I leave the conversation like I want to give you something. I want to like thank you for coming on this journey with me, and then I'm just like, bye. Like I'll see you in the neighborhood. So I'm gonna store that in my brain.
Yeah, that's really good.
That seems like a good segue for you to tell us about your work, which I think Michelle's already told you that I don't know shit about deep canvassing. I think was probably exactly how she put it. If she didn't put it that way, I will admit it that way. I don't know shit about deep canvassing. So yeah, why don't you maybe just tell us what deep canvassing is
Yeah.
and yeah, about your work.
Yeah. So I think, are you familiar with regular canvassing, traditional
I
canvassing?
mean, I'm
Like,
familiar with the fact that when people come to my door that I try not to answer it.
right. I was going to say the usual somebody with a clipboard and is like knocking on your door, like waiting to ask you if you voted for a candidate of, I don't know, something on the ballot. That's usually like what, when people think of canvassing, that's usually what traditional canvassing looks like. And so I always say deep canvassing is kind of like, not really like that, but it's kind of like, instead of a 5-minute kind of transactional conversation you're having with a voter at the door, you're actually trying to take them on this like transformational like mini therapy session for like usually from anywhere from like 20 to like 60 minutes at their front door, and just trying to get them to uncover any stigma, any misconceptions about whatever issue it is you're like trying to canvass them on. For AVOW, we've always canvassed on abortion. So like literally going up to people at their front door being like, what are your thoughts and feelings about abortion? Like, I just want to know. And I think we've also kind of like, now that we've had like 2 iterations of the program, I think we're kind of, deep canvassing is like a voter tactic, right? Like, you're supposed to engage the voter, and like ultimately through these conversations, you move them to show up at the polls. I think what we've kind of been discovering lately, and like the lesson that we learned in the last iteration, is that we're kind of moving away from like using it as like a voter tactic and more like a power building, community building tactic, I guess. Like, not even calling them voters anymore. Like, I think they're just constituents, or we call them community members. Like, just not having it tied to an election cycle, I think, is something that we really, really like want to start doing. And we like low key have, but that's just because we haven't had another program. I'm like, look, we've been doing that. It's just because we haven't been deep canvassing lately. But yeah, that's kind of just like a brief like 101 of like what a deep canvassing conversation is. Like, you have a script, still like a regular canvassing, but it's a little bit more structured, right? Like, you kind of have like this like introductory of like, hi, this is why I'm here. And then we start off with like a scaling question just to get a feel of like where this person falls on like what their abortion opinions are going to be. And then we kind of, the rest of the script is really bare bones. It's really open-ended, just because it's like, you can't really plan a conversation, right? Like, you don't go into a conversation with somebody like, this is what they're going to say, and then I'll know to go here and to go here. You can try, but I would say like 95% of the time, it's just like talking off your dome. It's just like, I'm just going to be present in this conversation and, be vulnerable with this person. And usually that opens up the possibility for them to also be vulnerable with you, to uncover any stigma that they have.
That makes sense. And just, I mean, in terms of just like questioning style too, like for me as a lawyer, like that's sort of how you're supposed to approach depositions. And that probably sounds bad. People think of depositions as always being really combative, which they're not always, but they're supposed to be for information gathering purposes. So like so you have a list of stuff, you have a list of questions, of course, that like you need to get to. But like the biggest mistake that lawyers make, and particularly young lawyers, is not listening to the answer and just like being focused on what your next question is. And instead, you need to listen to the answer and then go from there, because people say all kinds of things that you wouldn't expect. And so I can imagine that it's sort of similar to that.
100%.
Yeah. So AVOW is like kind of a sister org to Lyft, because we take similar approaches to this work, even though we're doing it in different states. And one of those is deep canvassing. And AVOW was like super helpful to Lyft as we were figuring out how to start doing this in Louisiana. So Amy, can you talk a little bit about like why AVOW started to use deep canvassing in Texas? Like what were the goals, and why did you think that this was like a strategy that y'all wanted to do?
That's a good question. I didn't come in like I wasn't leading the program, so I talked to Caroline, our old movement power director. They've now switched to infrastructure and alignment director. I always mess up Caroline's title switch, but shout out to Caroline.
It's not a sexy title, but Caroline's awesome.
This is nonprofit speak too.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Caroline saw the work that they were doing in California over one of the like anti-trans restroom bills that was happening in 2016, I want to say. And there was an organization there that introduced deep canvassing. They used deep canvassing tactics to talk to people about like anti-transness and ultimately get them to vote in opposition of the bill, which I think worked. So yay. So Caroline did some work, like saw that, and then I think did a lot of like collaboration with another organization, another nationwide organization that also does like abortion access. And I think it was through there they were kind of just like, why not bring it to Texas, right? Like it's such a, I think people are always saying that Texas could be purple. Like I don't want to say we're purple. It is, it like wants to be a little beautiful lilac. And I think Caroline was like, I think it's just like, what else do we have to lose at this point?
Yeah, this is true. That's I trust me, that's a motivator and an idea generator around our parts too.
Yeah.
It really
What do we have to
pushes-
lose?
Yeah, it pushes us through back when Caroline was starting to plan out the deep canvassing program back in 2022. They specifically chose a district in Dallas that was really, really diverse. It was like a lot of like, had like some urban spots closer to some like the downtowns of like some suburbs, but it was also very rural. And at the time, I was living with my mom, not in the district, but like 10 minutes away from the district. And I was like, I would love to talk to my neighbors. I don't know about like, I mean, you do talk to your neighbors about like the weather. And did you hear that loud car pass by at like 4 a.m?
Is your electricity out too? Is a big one
But
in New Orleans. Yeah.
But I was like, I'm super interested in the idea of talking to them to come out and be like, what are your thoughts about abortion off the rip is insane. It's so normalized to me now. I'm like, no, I would love to start every conversation like that. I meet somebody. But I think that our goal during that time period we were trying to push a candidate that was running against the incumbent in that district because they did vote for anti-abortion bills in Texas. So that ultimately was the goal. And I think we started off with like 9 canvassers. And then towards the end of the program, like GOTV times is when we dwindled down to like 3 or 4. And I mean, ultimately the goal was to change the outcome of the election. But I mean, the incumbent has been in office for like the hold she has on that district is tight. But I mean, we've seen a lot of really, really good people come out of like trying to run against her. So I mean, the more pro-abortion people we have in office, or even just kind of letting them the exposure, I think is like amazing and a win, honestly. So yeah.
I like though what you were talking about before. I mean, or at least it just makes sense to me. I mean, about doing it just sort of more as like an issue education, issue movement, like literally moving people along. I think that's how Lyft does it, Michelle.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, which also we're a 501c3 and we have some C4 money, but mostly not. So that's important to note that that's how we're doing it.
That's cool.
But I mean, the reason it makes sense to me is that like, you know, we've known for a long time, and certainly there's been like good polling, including some that we did statewide here after jobs, that shows that like support for abortion is actually much stronger than people claimed or suspected, honestly. But like, it's not for a lot of people, I think, in the state, then not only is it not like motivating them in terms of how they vote, as opposed to the folks on the other side, that's very much motivating them, but like it wasn't front of mind, or at least hasn't been historically. So I think that like, to me, just like getting it to be more front of mind to people who like do care or like might care is like just sort of, you know, in more of like a long-term plan kind of useful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that is also something that I love to like talk about too, is that deep canvassing is not an immediate like results tactic. Like you are not going to probably see a ton of like turnout like in the first election cycle that you use deep canvassing, because it is so engraved in like relationship building, and you have to like build up to that, right? Like you kind of have to have a connection with this person and a presence in the community, and you know, it be positive one. And so even on the topic of abortion, there's so much stigma that even if people are like, no, I do care about abortion, there's still a lot of just like misconceptions that like
No doubt.
never told you anything differently than like, yeah, people use abortion as birth control, so it's just like, it's like really to be on that journey with someone as they're deconstructing such major things, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of intention. And so I always say, like, even just planting the seed, even if you just talk to one person for 20, 30 minutes and you like never see them again, I really do feel like just planting the seed really is just it opens the door for so much for that person. And it is a win in my eyes.
So wait, are you guys repeat visitors to some people?
We are. I mean, that is a big part of the program, is to recontact the folks that we've decanvassed again for, I think, like on the data side, just to see if they have moved.
Yeah.
We ask them that scaling question of like where they fall. So the scaling question is on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 means there's no good reason to have an abortion, and 10 means all reasons are good reasons to have an abortion. Where do you fall? And so in the middle is like, you think some reasons are okay, but some not. It is interesting. We ask at the beginning of the conversation and at the end to see if they've moved in the conversation, but also when we recontact them again after they've had time to sit and hopefully reflect, hopefully like go to other people about the conversation they had with us to see if they've moved up. I've never had anybody move down.
I was gonna ask you that. Yeah.
It's never happened. Fingers crossed it never happens. Usually people stay at the number that they say that they like started at, or they move up a considerable amount, or maybe just like half a point. Like they're whole numbers, but sometimes people are like, 4.5. Like after the conversation, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
That's interesting. So because I was going to ask if you guys did like have run data on, how many people you're talking to that like change that move, but it also does make sense to me that number is, this is like everything with the work that we do. A lot of stuff is kind of intangible or hard to measure because I mean, I can just see people being like reluctant to be like, yes, you did this one conversation, and this one conversation did change my mind about this important thing. And like, I'm going to not only admit that, but like quantify it for you in real time. Like, it's just like people don't want to admit that,
That's so true, Ellie. That's 100% like what the experience is, at least that we've had. Amy, I don't know if you had similar experience. Like people, they'll tell you their number at the beginning of the conversation, and you feel like they certainly have moved throughout the conversation. But
Right.
then when you ask them again, they're like at the same number. Like people are very resistant to admitting even to themselves that they've changed their mind about something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and obviously you guys would know better than me. I mean, the person who's doing the canvassing and like their subjective interpretation of that conversation and what's landing and what the responses are, I think is probably much more reliable. And particularly in terms of the planting the seeds, right? That like those are things that like this person's going to think about, whatever. You just don't want to be just human nature. You just don't want to be like, yeah, I mean, I was 5, but like, man, this 20 minutes changed my life now. I'm late.
No, and I get it. I'm a slow processor too. Like something will happen to me, and then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, that just happened to me. Like I didn't realize that, this conversation or this action is making me think. It's making me think, and I am going to be a different person after what just happened, right? So it is like, I think that's why we also, at the very end of a program, do like it is important to us to recontact those. Not everybody, because there are folks who are just like, don't come back here. We don't want to talk again, and that's okay. But there are folks that I'm like, you leave the conversation just like I could stay for another hour. You know what I mean? Like so much to talk about with this community member, and it just is like you almost like want to check up on them again in a few weeks and be like, our conversation has stayed with me and I just want to pick up where we started again. And yeah,
I wanted to ask you, like, are there like any particular stories from canvassing that have really like stuck with you?
yes. So I had this one like scary incident, and it's my only scary incident in like the 3 years I've canvassed. I was canvassing a trailer home park, and I am going to find, I know that she's like an older woman on my list, and I didn't check her age, but I just knew she's like above 60. And so I knock on the door and someone comes out, and it's a very nice lady. And I ask her, "Are you this person?" And she goes, "No, that's my mom." And then I look, and her mom is like 90 years old. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if anyone is over like the age of like 70 or 80, I'm like, you don't have to come to the door, queen. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. So that's probably like the sweet spot. That's about how my parents are now like around 70 to 70. They would be endlessly talking at the door.
It's like, it just depends. But I'm like 90, I'm like, girl, don't even. But I was like, okay. And I always like, for me as a canvasser, even if the person is not on my list, if they're open to having the conversation with me, I'm game. I'm into it.
God, take where the conversation leads, right? Even if it's literally with a different person.
Like, why not? And she's very receptive, very kind. She's like, no, that's my mom, but what do you need? And I start doing my intro. I'm Amy. I'm with AVOW, da da da. And I tell her I'm out here talking about abortion, and I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings because it is a controversial topic, but it's important to talk about. And I don't even think I get my scaling question out of my mouth yet. Like I think I'm about to be like on a scale. And then she's like, wait, she was like, how do you feel about abortion? And at that point, no one's ever asked me. Like, I've never been canvassed while I was canvassing. So I was like,
It's a very good question, actually. It's like, where's the conversation going,
I was
basically?
stumped. I was like, oh my God, no one's ever asked me. Thank you so much for being so curious. And I was like, I'm a 10. And I don't even think I got to the point of saying pro-abortion advocate. I think I said 10. And it was like, when actors are pretending that they're smiling, and then it's like, immediately her face completely fell. And she was like, get off my porch. Like scary. And I was like, again, slow processor. I was like, huh? And then she's like, get off my porch. And I was like, okay, no, yeah, of course. Let me get my ass off your porch. And I'm literally going down the steps of her porch. And I even say thank you. I'm like, have a good day. I'm going down the steps of her porch. And she goes, run. You're not moving fast enough. Run.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't run for anybody. I don't even run for fun. But I did have to wrap up my shift after that. I just felt like, I was like, is she going to call somebody to like see if I'm walking around?
And I would want to get out of that neighborhood that
Exactly.
day, at least. Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
I
for sure.
sat down, I talked to my manager, and they were like, yeah, just wrap it up. That is intense, but just get out of there. So that was fine. And the next day I was scheduled to work again to canvas. And I was like, I did have a bad experience on this street, but I was like, I want to finish this list. I don't know. I was like, it was scary, but I wasn't terrified. I was like, I want to go back. And
Also, yeah, you didn't want to let like one person on that street shut down everyone else from having a conversation.
exactly. I was like, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to talk about abortion, we don't have to. But I was like, in my head, I'm like, there is somebody who does, and I would want to talk to them. And I'm literally to this day so grateful that I like listened to myself. I didn't go on the same street. I will say that. I kind of stayed away from that part of the neighborhood, but I did.
The vigilante ladies street.
Yeah.
I'm like, she could be like outside of her like binoculars, like waiting for me. So I was steered cleared of her street and her like little area. But I went back, and I went in the kind of early evening, and the home that I was knocking at had like a lot of children's toys outside. And like, you're not supposed to let like, your bias get in the way of the conversation. But I already was like, okay, I'm probably going to talk to somebody who has kids. And sometimes people who already have kids are like, if I got an abortion, I wouldn't have my children. I'm already thinking, okay, I kind of already know how the conversation's going to go. I still knock on the door anyway. I talked to this, I think she was like in her 30s. I'm not gonna lie, it was awkward the first like 20, 30 minutes of our deep canvassing conversation, because she was like, what do you need? What do you want? And I don't really need anything. I'm like, I just want to have this conversation with you. And, people take a minute to open up. And at this point, it almost gets to a point where I'm like, where you're just like so bored at work. Sometimes you're just like, I don't care if I'm like staring at like paint dry. I'll do it. Like, I mean, what else am I going to do, right? I'm like, I don't know if she wants to talk to me, but I'm still going to sit here and try to have this conversation with you and listen. And we weren't even talking about abortion. We were talking about our kids, because she had two really young kids that were playing in the front yard while we were talking on the porch. And I was like, "Oh, like how old is your youngest son?" And she was like, "Oh, he's 3." And I was like, how was your pregnancy? Because I just didn't know. I'm anything to keep the conversation going. I was like, oh, how was that pregnancy? I'm just curious. And so she was like, I've always really wanted to be a mom. And had a lot of complications with my first child, but I really wanted to have siblings. Like I wanted him to have another sibling. And she said that when she went to her doctor and told them like, hey, I want to be pregnant again, they were like really dismissive and were like, you can't because you're overweight. Like, you just can't. The way she described it, she was like, they were just so dismissive and like
Yeah.
even trying to work with her and like make a plan. They were just like, absolutely not. You're overweight. Just like literally no. And she felt like, again, like the decision was completely ripped away from her. Right. And it's in these moments where like you're present in the conversation and you don't really know how to bring things back to abortion sometimes. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, you felt like the decision was taken away from you. You felt powerless. You felt isolated. That, yes, like that is my end, right? This is how I connect it. I can connect it back to abortion.
Yeah, and I mean, because we are reproductive freedom people. That's the thing that sometimes is lost in terms of the way our enemies view us. Is that I'm for you, whatever you want to do, and whatever's right for your life. Like I don't
Exactly.
have a preconceived notion of what you should do. I want you to be able to be enabled to do what's right for you. It's just the other side of the coin here.
I remember being like, yes, if you want to be pregnant and to raise that family and how, like the way that you want, I want that for you. But we can't have that if we don't have abortion access as well. Like they're together. Like again, I just listened to her and I again affirmed like that is awful that, medical professionals, like just the fat phobia
Yeah.
in our hospitals, in our healthcare is awful and it's isolating. And again, I tied it back to abortion. People who are seeking abortion care also feel literally exactly the same way as you do. And, these things are interconnected. And I don't think she had just never made that connection before.
Mhm.
And I think like literally again, it was like 20, 30 minutes of like awkwardness and like just trying to push through small talk. To finally get to like this like epiphany of now we're opening up to each other about oppression that we felt systemically. Like we can connect on that and we can be vulnerable with each other and we're safe, you know what I mean? Like we don't feel judged. And so I also told her about my experience with fat phobia in our healthcare system. And I don't know, it just like I felt like we were like besties by like the end of that conversation. And it just felt like a really wholesome moment. And like I had made a connection in this community in this neighborhood. And she was really, really chill and was even telling me that a lot of her son's kids come to her for relationship advice. And I was like, that's great.
I mean, like Louisiana, I'm sure that, they're not getting sex ed in school. So,
Totally.
you know,
Exactly.
you need a trusted adult.
Yeah, that's right. And it might be the lady on the street.
Yeah.
Lives down the street. Yeah.
I told her too, I was like, if you need anything, like here is my number. Like I just felt that comfortable and that safe with her. And I knew she was a point person like in her community,
Right.
like that young people are getting their advice, information from. And I was like, if you need anything, please let me know. And if there's anywhere that I can help, I will point you in the right direction or I will give you plan B or whatever it is that you need, let me know. And I feel like I never would have made that connection with her and her family if I had let the fear of one
Right.
extremist scare me off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. It also is making me think about, I don't know if this has been true in your experience of talking to people, but I know anecdotally from my own friends, like in terms of how motherhood makes people feel about abortion. I mean, obviously, because my friends all know what I do. And I mean, a lot of them have volunteered to me that these are people who already would have identified as pro-choice, but that having a kid made them much, much more pro-choice. And it wasn't because of complication. It wasn't for medical reasons. It was that it's really
Pregnancy
hard.
sucks.
Right?
Well, parenthood too.
And parenthood.
Yeah,
And
be forced into either one of them.
exactly. Yeah. But if you think this is not right for you, or you think this is going to be too hard for you, you don't have a partner, you don't have money, you don't have, whatever, all the millions and millions of reasons on the 0 to 10 list, then
Yeah.
like that's, I feel this is hard. It's
That's
hard.
good. Yeah, it is. It is that shit is hard. Parenting and raising a whole human being is so incredibly brave and difficult. Like, shout out to the moms. Like,
Yeah, I think it also speaks to that, that people's life experience obviously informs their views. And sometimes that's in ways that like we wouldn't necessarily think or connect, that like if you have children, you must then think that everyone should have children or, you know, that actually like many, many people are like, nope, quite the opposite. Like
Yeah.
this is hard. People should absolutely not be forced to do it against their will.
Yeah.
And I also, one more thing about this particular story was that like minors in Texas also need abortion access. And I think about how they have to have a judicial bypass if they're not old enough to get abortion care. And this is before we had a total ban, but
Right?
like,
I was gonna say at this point, I don't know. Yeah.
at this point, nobody can get, doesn't matter how old you are.
Now
You can
everyone needs a judicial bypass, for God's sake.
But just how you were asking teenagers to go to a random judge and be like, can I have an abortion? Or do I have this pregnancy? Like if you're asking for the abortion, what makes you think that they are ready to raise a child?
Right.
Like it just is, it blows my mind how that is a thing that was happening and that we were asking teenagers to do that alone most of the time, because if they were trying to get a judicial bypass, that probably means their parents weren't trusted to help them getting that care. And what sticks with me so much is that if I had let that scary woman on the opposite side of the neighborhood keep me from coming back, like I don't know if I would have ever talked to that woman, and I don't know if she would have had the tools and the resources to give to her community and to her kids. And that to me, I'm like, that is literally planting the seed, y'all. Like like I saw it with my own eyes of just even through a conversation, like how resources are literally being distributed into the community.
It also makes me think, I mean, so first of all, I would never be a deep canvasser and I would also never answer the door for somebody. So I just want to put that out there. However, it makes you think about like we are all basically doing this. We are all deep canvassers in our own life. And
100%.
and this example with judicial bypass, like that's true with my own mom. When I was a teenager, I mean, I knew that I would be able to go to her, but she was very like, parental rightsy about like, a parent needs to know and blah, 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 blah. And like, by the time we had some of the really, really bad judicial bypass bills being proposed in Louisiana, I had her writing letters to John Bel Edwards telling him like how bad these laws are. Because over time, just getting her to think about it differently, that like, this isn't about you, mama. This is about like, like think about all of like kids out there in general who don't have a trusted parent, who have a crazy fucking religious parent or have no legal guardian at all. So yeah, there's, we are all kind of moving people along in a series of 20 or 30-minute conversations, I feel like, throughout our lives.
And that's the amazing thing about deep canvassing, is that you don't have to be an expert on like every abortion bill in Texas, or like you don't have to be an expert at all. If you care about people, then you care about abortion.
Yeah.
You are qualified to talk from your own lived experience to other people about why they should also care and show up for abortion access. Like you don't need to be an expert on any kind of like medical procedure, any kind of legal jargon. Like as long as you care and as long as you're a good active listener and you have good intentions, you could deep canvas anybody over anything at any time.
Well, I wanted to ask you because, I think that the first story that you told is important, especially because Lyft started our deep canvassing program in October of last year, so right before the election. And then the election happened, and I actually went out with our deep canvassing team that first weekend after the election because I wasn't sure what they were going to face. And so like I wanted to be there to support them. And it was interesting because I was actually surprised. It felt like more people opened their doors and they were processing some shit. We all were. And like, they wanted to talk about this, but like, recent events, I mean, tensions are just really running high in this country, and asking canvassers to knock on strangers' doors and talk to them about like a highly polarized topic like abortion obviously does have some risk. So like, how has AVOW kind of considered those risks while training canvassers? And like, how do you support canvassers to make sure that they're safe, but also that like they have some way of like processing, these kind of emotional conversations that they're having with people?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And honestly, like we haven't canvassed since the last election cycle. So I mean, that is also still something that we think about and are still trying to grow is like the safety concerns over canvassers when they're out in the field. One thing that we've like done differently this second iteration was have like our manager, like I'm previously our manager was not living in Dallas. Like they were in Austin. And so the first thing that we avowed did was like we need someone who is able to get to the field like quickly if something were to happen. Another thing that we do is also train them on like what to do when certain circumstances come up. Like it could be like if you see a loose animal, like a loose dog in the neighborhood, how to like de-escalate a situation, not even de-escalate. If you are uncomfortable at any point in the conversation and you can just you're like I'm like your body, if your body is telling you that this person is not having this conversation with you in good faith, if you have anything that makes you uncomfortable in the conversation, you can leave at any point. Like we make that very clear to the canvassers when they're starting. Like we do not want to put your safety on the line at all at any point. And we also train them on like what to do with your materials, like what materials they wear, like what they have on to make it clear that they are a professional. They're not just a stranger. They are there like just so that they're easily identifiable as someone who's not a
Right. So
threat.
that people don't feel unsafe. I mean,
Right.
all my jokes about not going to the door, it's for multiple reasons. I'm a girl who lives by myself and I'm busy. So there's unrelated reasons, but yeah.
No, but they're real, and like I'm like they have a badge with their faces and their name, and it has our contact information. And we also train them on what to do when they're talking to police, because we did have a canvasser get the police called on them for like again suspicious presence in the neighborhood or whatever, and we train them on what to tell the police, which is like what they're like. I mean, we out of all we have nothing to hide. Like it's not illegal to deep canvas any
No.
Not yet. Yeah.
at this point, it is not illegal. We are not soliciting. We're not selling anybody anything, but we do co-op. Like there was one time an incident that the cops did get caught on a canvasser, and like they're trained to call the manager immediately. They're trained to tell the police exactly that. Like they're there to canvass, and it's protected by the First Amendment.
Sure.
Sure. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. You're in public. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
They're to get again give the talk to the managers, obviously, and so that way they can get whatever they need cleared up. And if it's in that situation, we did have to leave the neighborhood, which is fine. We have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and all jokes aside, in terms of, I mean, like, you do have to leave somebody's property if they ask you to leave.
Yeah, and
That
I'm
Yeah.
like,
for sure. But like,
I only
otherwise, it's a public street. But it makes sense to me too. I mean, like, the chance. I mean, who knows? I guess, but like in general, I think the chances of like something violent happening are very low, as opposed to just like maybe like an angry and uncomfortable conversation, or like with yours, like please leave, or not please, just like leave. So it makes sense to me that just like trying to give people like, yes, like de-escalation tools, like,
yeah,
I am leaving, I am walking away now,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
that
really
that makes
important.
sense.
Just that clarification, I think, of like telling the canvassers, like, you are not there to fight anybody at their front doorstep. Like, you are like, this is not, I mean, that's the whole thing about deep canvassing is like, we're trying to move away from these like harsh political talking points, debate style. I don't even want to say conversation, these debate style screaming matches.
Right.
And it's not about persuasion. Like the canvassers aren't there to like argue with the voter, the constituent at the door, like about their point of view. It's about listening to them and figuring out what their values are around this issue and engaging them in conversation that way. And
Mhm.
like you may say like, well, in my experience, or the reason that I think this, but it's not like you're wrong. I think this, you should think this. Like that's not the goal of this at all. So it's fundamentally not like a hostile or aggressive
Right,
approach.
right.
That's a good point, and I think at least I know for us at Lyft, then that's would be useful. That like both like Amy's been talking about planting the seeds for people to think about and hopefully make these issues more front of mind, but also like what are people's hangups? Like like literally like back to the debit like information gathering. What are people's misconceptions? What are people stigma? What issues do they attach stigma to? Just all of that kind of stuff. Like we all kind of know, but I mean, I don't think we honestly do, really. Folks on our side, I don't think really understand enough what it is that like just regular people who are kind of in the middle on this issue, like what is it that they care about? What are they worried about? What do they have qualms about?
Well, that's
That
maybe
kind
a
of stuff.
maybe a good kind of last question for you, Amy. Yeah, like what have y'all learned, to Ellie's point, as you've been canvassing at AVOW?
Yeah. I mean, this is a really good question. I feel like, just within like the program, like we've learned, canvassing hours, like again, safety, like we don't canvass in the dark. Like we've had to change the script a few times. Like that scaling question it's an opener, but also it's like, is there a better way for us to word some stuff? Like things like that. And then even just personally, I feel like just one thing that even now, I feel like I'm still trying to get the hang of it is learning how to talk to men about abortion. I feel like it needs its own class. Like, like there's just so many components that happen. And it's like, if they're not really, it's not really like resonating with them, like to talk about abortion in like, I don't know, like in this way, like maybe we'll talk about it in like a freedom way, like it's impinging on our freedoms as an American, like, you know what I mean? Just like, I think, or even like, I should probably open it up to just like everybody, like every conversation is so different. And you really do like, the more you canvas, the more you're like, okay, this person really like values, I don't know, like access, right? Like they don't have access to like a grocery store. And so access to them really is something important. So it's like, okay, how can I tie this back to abortion? It really does keep you on your feet the whole time when you're having a conversation. Another thing too, I feel like our biggest takeaway is just not attaching it to an election cycle. I
Yep.
think like
Yeah.
people, again, abortion is way more popular than any candidate that has ran in Texas. And I think like people aren't they're just not, people talk about not even want to say politics, like people are just not attached to election cycles. Like they come and they go. And not to say voting isn't important, and not to say that we don't do also get out the vote tactics and programming, but I think if we really want to see culture change, if we really want to shift the narrative on abortion, it has to be year long around relationship, community, power building. And that only happens when you do it face to face. That's also probably another lesson is like love digital organizing, love like all the new like phone banking and text banking. Like those are all really, really good tools. But I really do feel like if you want to plant the seed and really like nurture that harvest, you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you need to like just do it face to face. I like
Yeah.
in
I
person.
think, yeah, and I mean honestly, like, and then we can let you go, but it just like with men, why this also makes sense is because I think this is less true with younger men, but like particularly like men that are my dad's age or like more towards that, who are progressive, who are pro-choice, but like their position has always basically been like that's a women's issue, like that's what
Exactly.
that's like I'm on board. They should do what the women should do what the women want to do. But like they're not. So I think that was sort of like what was the internalized message like for a long time was basically like stay out of this. And like we don't, that's actually not what we need. We need men to be in the fight with us and to
Exactly.
to be, and there's tons of reasons for them to be personally invested, but also to be more like, I need to show up on this for my daughters, for my wife, for my, mom, for whomever. So I think particularly like if that's kind of the perspective that people are like the in-person conversation might really help that person. They're like, I'm good on this issue, but like maybe you should be a little bit more invested on this issue.
Exactly. We're not going to win this fight without men, without allies. And so, yeah. And again, sometimes people, again, like these social, like interactions of like this person, you can't just like close the door on a person. You can't just like hang up the phone. You know what I mean? Like there is this kind of like thing of like, now that we're in this conversation, we have to be polite to each other and we have to listen to each other. And I will work that. I'm like, you are here. If you give me just 10 minutes of your time, I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to get something out of you. With consent, of course, if you're down.
It's a perfect caveat, to end this. With your tacit consent by not slamming the door in my face.
Right. Like, Amy, this has been such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
I would love to. And thank you guys so much for having me and thinking of me. I can talk about deep canvassing all day. So thank you so much.
So how can folks follow AVOW and learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I would probably point everyone to our social media. We're at AVOW Texas on everything. We have like really amazing digital programming happening on our Instagram, especially. We're very active on Instagram. And also check out our website at avowtexas.org. We post all our events, all volunteer opportunities, even job listings. So make sure to keep that AVOW Texas website in your bookmarks.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Nice talking to you.
Bye.
Seriously is presented by Lift Louisiana, a nonprofit organization advocating for reproductive health rights and justice.